How's your week been?
Not great.
Okay, so not great, not terrible,
No, not terrible.
but not great. Okay. Did you bring in one of the situations?
No, I did not.
Okay. So what happened with that?
I just had too much going on and I just didn't have a chance to do it.
Okay. Did it cross your mind? Did you think about it?
I mean, I thought about it, but I just didn't feel like doing it.
Oh, okay. So it came across your mind, you thought, not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this question. Because, we talked about this, and it's really hard when people are depressed to want to think about these relational events, because they're kind of stressful.
Mm-hmm.
But as we were talking kind of early in some of our early sessions, that therapy is a relational event, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what that means is that what I do affects you, and what you do affects me.
Mm-hmm.
And that part of our work is kind of trying to understand how that works. And so I'm wondering, how do you think it affects me if you don't bring in, or when you don't bring in one of these situations for us to look at?
Oh, I feel like you're probably disappointed in me.
All right. So that's what goes through your head, is that I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
Now, if you really wanted to know how it affected me, what would be the best way to find out?
I could ask you.
Do you want to know how it affects me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm not disappointed. What I want to do is I want to be able to help you.
Okay.
So if I don't have something for us to work on, something that's really concrete to kind of break down and look at, then we don't have anything to work with, which creates some frustration because, well, I want to help you. So I don't know if you know that or not.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay. So what can we do about it? What would help you with bringing, sort of writing, I don't know, writing this down, or is there something that we could do to make it easier, or?
I could try to set it up, like in my calendar, try to set a time, like at night.
Okay.
To maybe
Yeah.
write, if something were to happen that day, kind of like write it down.
Do you, do you do that? Do you set stuff in your calendar and kind of remind you of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so sort of write it in your calendar. When would you do that?
When would I write it in my calendar?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I could try to make like a mental note of it, like when a situation happens, kind of make a mental note, and then when I have a chance, write it in my calendar to remind myself to write out the situation.
Okay, and you were thinking about writing something in your calendar, like a reminder at the end of every day to sort of like,
Yeah.
hey.
Yeah.
So maybe when we get to the end of the session, we could do that.
Okay.
Pull out your phone or whatever and write that down. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
You think it might work?
I think so.
Okay. So that's a really important piece, but did you have any event that actually came up that we could look at? If you don't have it written down, it may be, so the next thing would be like, well, let's see if we can't come up with some event to look at.
Well, I remember the other day I was kind of upset. My husband just had come back in town, and I was really overwhelmed that day with like the kids, and he came home and I felt like he just wasn't really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And he had been gone for like 4 days on a business trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been messaging him, telling him I was overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I just felt like when he got home, he didn't really care. He kind of like went to his office and was working on other stuff.
Office in the house?
Office in the house.
Oh, I see, okay.
And then like I was like clearly struggling with the kids. Like one of them was crying a lot, and I don't know, I just felt very frustrated in that moment. Like he just didn't care and wasn't willing to help me.
Okay, so he's in his office, right?
Yes.
And the kids are struggling. You're struggling with one in particular who's crying, and you felt like you needed help.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying he wouldn't help you. Is that right?
Right.
Now, just help me see what was happening if I could. So your child was crying.
Mm-hmm.
Your husband's in the office. And what did you do? What would I see you doing in that? I mean,
Well, I was trying to comfort my 1-year-old, but
a little Billy?
yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to comfort him, and my other two were getting in an argument, and then I was just like, I felt very frantic in the moment, kind of trying to like gather myself, and then I was trying to cook dinner at the same time. And it was just like a lot, so I was just kind of frantically doing multiple things at once.
Okay, so the end point here is that, like, because we're looking at a slice of time, right? So we got this slice of time.
Mm-hmm.
Your husband comes home, right? In this slice of time, and you're saying that he goes into his study, right?
Yes.
You see that?
Yes.
And then you're saying there's this period of time in here where the kids were struggling, right?
Right.
And you're trying to help the kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all along, he's sitting back here in the study, right? And then how does this situation, because it has to have an endpoint, did you calm the kids and then go on to cooking dinner, or how did it end, actually?
I eventually got the kids kind of settled and set up, kind of entertained, so I could get dinner, or finish dinner.
So you settled kids and you finished dinner,
Yeah.
right? But I guess what you're saying is, in relation to your husband, was there any place in here where you said anything to him?
No, I didn't want to bother him because he was working on it.
All right,
I don't know what he was working
so here in this moment of time, right, you're struggling with the kids right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in relation to your husband, you're saying, I didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't want to bother him, right?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's kind of busy.
So we'll put that there, just so we that's a kind of a graph, just so I can get a sense of the time.
Okay.
Okay? So let's use our sheet, okay? And now I'm going to get that sheet for you real quick. Right? Remember if you remember, the first thing I want you to do on that sheet was just to write down the situation. So on the back, right? So in step 1, it says describe the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to try to do that together here.
Okay.
And we want to keep it really kind of short and sweet. And I'm going to try to summarize that for you,
Okay.
so you get a sense of what this looks like. So husband is in the study, working, right?
Yes.
I'm going to use first person here. I'm trying to take care of kids crying, right? I don't say anything to husband, right? And eventually, kids calm and I go on to make dinner. Is that right?
Yes.
Now you notice here that I'm just writing out the bare facts, right? There's no commentary or no interpretations in this, so it feels kind of weird. Does that seem right?
Yes.
Because most of the time we sort of embed our interpretations or sort of our commentary into describing an event like this.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, he's in the study, you're trying to calm the kids down.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't do anything to help. But you don't say anything to him, right? Eventually you calm the kids down, then you go on to make dinner, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this would be the end point, right? You don't say anything to them, they calm down, and then you go on to make dinner. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, now, looking back at this situation in step 2, what's it say that you do?
Describe your interpretation of what happened.
Okay. So you get 3 interpretations here. What did you think was happening in that moment while all this was going on? What you think was happening?
I was thinking that he didn't care at all.
Okay. So he doesn't care at all. All right, good.
I was thinking that how alone I feel in this whole, I don't know, parenting thing.
I feel all alone as a parent?
As a parent, because he's gone a lot and then he's busy a lot, so I just feel like it's just a lot of pressure on me.
So how would you put that into one sentence?
I feel isolated in our marriage.
Okay. I feel isolated in our marriage. Okay. Now, kind of looking back at this as it sort of unfolding, right? This is sort of a time stamp in how it unfolds. And so the kids are crying. And right here, you said you don't say anything to him, right?
Yeah.
You just let him do his thing. How did you decide that you were going to do this, that you weren't going to say anything, you were going to take care of it yourself? How did you decide that that's what you were going to do?
Well, I don't feel like he ever really wants to be involved. So, and again, I feel like he's really busy, and I don't want to bother him with like my needs. So I don't want to I don't want him to get like angry at me for asking for help.
Okay. So you got a bunch of different thoughts in there. Which one seemed the most relevant to what you don't want him to get angry? Was that?
Yeah, I'm kind of scared he'll get angry or reject me if I, disrupt him or ask him to help.
He will get angry and reject me if I ask him to help, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good. That's our second step there, okay?
Okay.
What's the third step say?
Describe what I was what I was doing during the situation.
Okay. So when you look back at the situation, and, you know, if I'm a fly on the wall, or there's a camera kind of recording you in this situation, what would I see you doing? What would I see?
Frantically trying to calm the kids down.
Okay.
And
Now, what does frantically mean? I mean, what would I see that was like,
probably me raising my voice at my older kids.
all right, so raising voice at older kids.
And then like trying to soothe the 1-year-old while also like trying to start dinner.
Okay, so I'd see you frantically raising your voice at your older kids and then trying to care for the younger. And what does frantically taking care of the younger one look like?
I just felt like I had the 1-year-old like on my side here, and I was like kind of rocking, or not rocking, but like bouncing while like cooking dinner. So I just felt like I was doing a lot of things at once.
Right, although I will kind of step that, so you kind of got them calmed down and then you went to the dinner thing, right?
Yeah, I had to pause from the dinner.
Oh, I see, so you were kind of doing the dinner and then you had
And
to
then
go.
I had to pause and then
I see.
calm them down and then go back.
So, and would there be any way, I mean, what would I see in terms of like your emotional expressions and that sort of stuff?
You'll probably see a sense of frustration and just stress on my face. I felt like I was kind of breathing heavily.
Okay, so you were breathing heavy, right?
Yeah.
Or breathing heavily, and the frustration, how would I know that if I were just observing your behavior?
Probably like the shouting at my other kids.
Okay, the shouting. Okay. So he was able to hear that.
I mean, I assume so.
All right. Did you do it loud enough for him to hear?
I tried to.
You tried to, okay. So you're shouting, but he couldn't really see you, so whether your face was red or, you know, you had tears in your eyes or anything like that, he couldn't really see that.
Correct.
Okay. Now, number 4, what's number 4 say?
Describe how the event came out for you.
Okay. Now, in step 4, we call this the DO, the AO, because it's the actual outcome. Okay. Now, by outcome, we mean your actual behavior, what you actually did. Right? So your behavior is 100% under your control. So what you actually did in this situation was what?
I didn't say anything, and I continued to try to handle things on my own.
Okay. And then you went on to make dinner, right?
Yes.
All right, so we're going to try to be fancy here, and we're going to copy this. All right, we're going to move it down here if we can. Now, it's not going to let us. Oh, this stinker. You think? Oh, she's going to show me how to do it. Cut.
And then copy.
I like it.
Paste.
Paste. There. So there we go. Perfect. So there's your actual outcome.
Okay.
Okay. Now, here's the toughie. What was your desired outcome? So that's number 5. So read that one. What's number 5?
Describe how you wanted the event to come out for you.
Okay. So you're looking at that endpoint, right? So you rewind it, you're back there with the kids, you're trying to calm them. And you decide you're not going to say anything to them. Now, if you could rewind it, would you do the same thing or would you do something different?
If I were to rewind it, I would kind of hope he would pick up on me struggling.
Oh, I got it. All right. So what you would hope for, right?
Yeah.
What you're wishing for is that he would get it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now, I always say to people, that what you wish for is one thing, but you'll always get reality back in return. Okay? So what you're saying is, if we can, I want to just draw this out. Here you are, here he is, right? Now, keep in mind that you're not even in a face-to-face. He's upstairs in his, right? So he's
Right.
kind of up in his office,
Mm-hmm.
right? All he has is his ears.
Yeah.
And what he hears is that you are yelling at kids, right?
Right.
That's what he hears. In your mind, what is it that you want?
I want him to come downstairs and help me.
You want him to come down and help me, right?
Yes.
I want him to come help me, right? That's what you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And how was he supposed to know that you wanted that?
I mean, like I said, I was shouting at the kids, so I would expect him to like hear me.
Oh, I get it. Right, so you're saying if I'm yelling at the kids down here,
Yeah.
he should know it. I shouldn't have to tell him this.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Well, which, that makes total sense to me. And I sometimes will say to folks, there's two worlds that you can kind of live in, right? One of them is Shouldville. So in Shouldville,
Mm-hmm.
right, you don't have to tell people exactly what you want. They get it. They can he should be able to read between the lines. I don't disagree with this at all. But in Realville, you actually have to tell them.
Okay.
How does that affect you when you hear that?
I mean, it frustrates me a little bit because I feel like I shouldn't have to tell him,
Right,
but I guess that's not necessarily reality, as you.
I shouldn't have to,
Yeah.
right? And it sounds like you might also be afraid that he's going to get angry. You said something about if I ask him,
Yeah, so I kind of just avoid.
then he's going to get angry with you and reject you.
Right.
that-
Yeah.
Okay. You think that played a role in you not saying anything?
For sure.
Okay. So now, so within this, then the desired outcome, is that you want him to help you, but that's a goal. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
An outcome is what would be the best way, right? Because that you have control of. Whether he helps you, you don't have control of that, right? So that's a goal. What's the best way or best possible way to get him to help you? What would you have to do?
Asked him for help.
Okay, and what would you say to him? Or what could you say?
Be like, hey, I'm struggling with the kids right now. Do you mind helping me so I can
All right,
get
good,
dinner
good.
on the table?
Hey, I'm struggling with the kids right now. Can you help me so I can get dinner on the table? Is that about right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good. So let's look at this, right? So the actual outcome is that you don't say anything to your husband, and eventually, I'll put that there, you calm the kids down and you put dinner on the table, right? Your desired outcome is that you would go to him and say, hey, I'm struggling with the kids right now. Can you help me so I can get dinner on the table? Did you get the desired outcome? No. Okay. So that's step 6. So if you read step 6, what's it say?
Was the desired outcome achieved?
No. And what's step 7 ask?
Why?
Why did you not get the desired outcome?
Because I didn't say that. I don't know.
Okay. So what is it that you didn't do in this situation? that you absolutely had to do, if you're going to get this, right? If this is your desired outcome, is to say this, what would you absolutely have to do?
Ask him.
You'd have, yeah. Right. You'd have to ask him,
Okay.
right? Which is really important. If you want him to know, you got to ask him. Right. Now, this is important because you could ask him and he could say, no, I'm not going to do it. Do it yourself. It's your job, not my job. You could say something like that. But if you don't ask him, is there any chance?
I mean, I guess not unless he heard me shouting.
Unless he heard you, right. I guess that could happen. It could be like, oh, which would be nice, but right. It's kind of like a baseball player though, right? If a baseball player has the goal to get a hit, right? That's their goal is. What would they have to do? Absolutely. If you want to get a hit, what do you absolutely have to do?
Hit the ball.
That's right. What do you got to do to hit the ball?
Swing.
Right. They actually have to swing the bat. Now, if they go, well, I could foul it off, or I could get grounded out. I could ground out, or hit another pop up like I always do. Well, that's true. You could do that, but if you don't swing the bat, it's impossible to hit the ball. It's kind of the old idea of you have not because you ask not. Now, just because you ask doesn't mean you'll get. But if you don't ask, it's very unlikely that you will. Okay. Now let's look at it a little bit differently, right? So what you do down here, right? Like what kind of behavior you execute. We look back up here at your situation again, right? If we paste that back in there, we look at your situation. What you do here is very strongly influenced by the thoughts that you have over here.
Okay.
So we want to look at step 2 at what thoughts that you had and ask, did they help you get your desired outcome?
Okay.
So let's look at this one. He doesn't care at all. Now, does that thought help you get your desired outcome of asking him? No. All right. Not very helpful. How about this one? I feel isolated in our marriage. Which is true, that's how you feel, right? So that's an accurate read. You can't be wrong about that. But is it helpful for you getting what you saying what you need to say here? That doesn't help either. How about this one? He's going to get angry and reject me if I ask him to help. Did that thought help you?
No.
Okay. Not so helpful. Not if you want to speak up. So if you wanted to speak up, if you wanted to say this to him, what would you have to tell yourself back here? What would you need to say?
I would have asked him what I needed to ask him.
Yeah, if you were
What would I say?
gonna speak up and tell him what you needed, what would you have had to tell yourself to do?
Well, I'd have to convince myself to tell him, maybe by saying that.
Well, if you had to sit there and convince yourself to do it, what would you have to tell yourself to do it? Once you convinced yourself,
He does care,
what's that?
that he does care.
Well, that might be helpful, right? I mean, but that's not going to make you say anything. Think of it this way. If I want to pick this pin up, right? Is it going to help me to go, I really need to pick that up. That would be really good to pick it up because I really need to pick it up. Is that going to help me pick it up? What do I eventually have to do to pick it up? I got to tell myself to what?
Reach for it, grab it.
Reach out, grab it, pick it up, right?
Yeah.
Now, because I do it so much, I don't really think that it's scripted,
Yeah.
right? Because I do it all the time. For some behavior that you don't do very much, you usually have to be really specific and telling yourself what you need to do.
Okay.
So if you wanted to speak up, you'd have to say,
I have to go upstairs and knock on the door.
oh, I love it. Go up, knock on door, and do what?
Ask if he could help me.
I love it. If he could or would?
Would.
All right. Good. Perfect. So let's do this, right? Let's just imagine that you're in that situation, right? The kids are yelling and you're all stressed out and you want them to go and you go up and you knock on the door. I'm him, you're you. What would you say? You can say exactly what we have written down here.
Hey, I'm really struggling with the kids right now. Could you help me so I can get dinner on the table?
All right, good. Good. You good? That's good. Now, we don't know what he'll do, and I don't want you to feel like you got to go do it. Does that make sense? Just talking about it in here is very, super useful. What's your reaction to what we just did?
I mean, I feel okay doing it, saying it to you. But like thinking about actually doing it makes me a little anxious.
Sure. I imagine a little, maybe not just a little, maybe a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. We got just a few minutes left, but I was curious, because at the beginning of the session, we were talking about, did you bring this sheet? And, this sheet's not easy to fill out, right? And remember, I just want you to fill out the first thing, just describing a situation on it. So don't feel like you got to be able to work all the way through this yet. That'll take some time. Eventually, you'll be able to do it without me even helping you, believe it or not. And once you're able to do that, you're going to be feeling a lot better. But in this situation, I was kind of questioning you about why you didn't bring it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking back to some of the situations that you talked about when we talked about your, sort of family and family of origin and your relationship with your dad, right? In a situation like that, where if you had not done something that your dad asked you to do, right? How would he have reacted in that situation to you?
He got angry at me.
What would he have said, or what would he have done?
He would say things like, "You're useless," and that I can never get anything done that he asks of me.
So he'd actually use those words, "You're useless."
Mm-hmm.
And how would you feel?
Like I was useless.
Like you were useless?
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in this situation today, when we were talking about this, how did I react to you?
You didn't get angry.
Did you think I was angry?
At first, yes.
You did.
I'm disappointed, yeah.
Was there something that I was doing that was giving you that feeling? Was it like in my facial expression, or
No.
just felt like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you feel like you're saying initially you felt that way? What changed that made you to not feel that way?
I mean, I guess working through this page and then me kind of asking you to help me with the kids, and you didn't necessarily react.
Oh, okay. So in the role play, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that sort of helped a little bit, but all along though, you were sort of under the impression maybe that I was angry and disappointed with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't do this.
All right. All right. what do you think about that now? Do you feel like right this second that I'm angry or disappointed or
No.
no? Okay. Is there something about the way I'm relating to you that says that I'm not angry or disappointed? Because I don't feel that way, so that's good.
I don't know.
I'm not yelling at you. I'm not calling you useless or worthless. You can't do anything right.
Right.
Okay. All right. So what do you think that says about our therapy relationship?
There's a sense of trust.
All right. All right. I mean, I never want to say to a person that, hey, trust me, I'm a trustworthy person, but at least hopefully you begin to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
That, sometimes you'll get things done and bring it in and we'll be able to look at it, and sometimes you won't and we'll adapt. But just so that you know what you do affects me, what I do affects you. So that's important. What do you think it might say about relationships down the road for you?
What do you mean?
Well, at this point, your sense is that if you mess up, people are going to be angry and disappointed with you. Or if you don't do something, they're going to be mad.
I think it helps me to realize and practice some of this stuff in this setting, which will help me realize that not all relationships are going to be similar to how my dad was to me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We'll see. All right. We'll see. All right. Good. Well, like I said, the goal is just that you bring in a situation, write it down on the back of that sheet. You can look at the other things if you want to work on step 2 and 3. Go for it. If not, the main goal is just getting the first one done.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll work through it in here.
Okay.
Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. We'll see you next time.